Hi, I think we're live. I'm having a little technological issues, so what I want to make sure is that we're connected to Facebook. So,
Right.
but hi,
Hello. Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Did you get confirmation that you're on or we're on?
No, so I'm waiting for confirmation.
Okay.
I think there's often a delay, but
Right.
I think Facebook just changed its interface, so it's
Hmm.
just not. What I might do, actually, I have a crazy idea, is to give people the link right to Crowdcast.
Oh, they can do that as well, I suppose. It does say live down there that
Yeah, we're
we've.
live on Crowdcast, that's for sure.
All right.
So actually,
Oh,
I'm still here.
okay.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to share to Facebook. So let's see.
We're going to have to come up with a name for this particular part of the ritual.
Yes, what should we call this?
I don't know. I mean, there's like preparatory prayers before some pujas that are about trying to make sure, hoping that, praying that everything goes well, that everybody's listening.
Yeah, I think that's what this is. Like before you even start, you do.
Right, right, and then afterwards, there's a series of prayers that are about, well, if we pronounced anything incorrectly, then
Yes.
we hope it didn't.
Please
That's
forgive
okay.
us. God
Right,
forgive us.
right, yeah,
That's my life right now. The
right,
technology gods, please forgive me because I have sinned.
right, right.
Yeah, so what I did is I posted the link to Crowdcast.
Okay.
I don't know if I should try one more time to just go live there. I don't know if that'll help. Um, I don't know. Should I try one more time?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why
Okay,
not?
so we'll
It's
try
only
one last time.
it's only 3 minutes after.
Okay,
Yeah.
I might lose you for a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I had the wrong links. I'll try again. I'm gonna change the links in Facebook. Can you still see me or hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so Facebook changed everything today. They changed the way that they accept live streams.
Right.
They have a whole different interface, which is probably better because the old one wasn't really good, but I don't get it. I don't know how to work it right. So let's see. Okay, Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing, and then I'll stop, and we'll just have it on here if it's not gonna work.
Okay. I think there are 7 people on Crowdcast.
Yeah.
So
that's
hello.
great. And they're just having to listen to this
Right.
sitting. Maybe you could read them a poem or something.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm just kidding. No, we
Right.
can just stare at your
Okay.
beard and my
Right.
pretend beard. I'm just gonna try and do it one last time.
Okay.
And then I'm about to give up. So one last effort here. Let's see. I'm starting from scratch with Facebook.
Okay. It's a very muscular click, Jivana.
Thanks. I'm working on. I think maybe that's it. I know if it worked, but we have the link on there. We have a link to to the Crowdcast,
Right.
and this will be recorded. So,
Right.
Including all of that wonderful waiting.
Right.
Maybe could we do a little centering for me? Do you mind if I do?
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. It's best you do it too.
Yeah, I'll do it. I need it. So,
yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Just let's take a moment to turn the awareness within. If that's comfortable for you, you can have the eyes open or close them if you like. Noticing what's going on and taking a breath. Okay, thank you. All right, let's try again. So we do have people here, right here in Crowdcast, which is great. And I said, if the stream isn't live on Facebook, which I don't think it is, people can always click on this link later. I can share it to Facebook at another time. It just means they won't be able to watch it live on Facebook. I don't know why I am not able to go live, but that's life. So thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you, Jivana. It's good to see your face. I don't think we've spoken to each other for several months, I think, and it was a totally different world when we did. I think we were talking about some conference or some, I don't know, something like that, but of something that's been canceled. we were probably talking, I think we were talking about something that's been canceled.
I'm positive.
Right. Yeah. Now you're safely at home. You were the most traveled yoga person in the world for last 2019. You are in Santa Barbara now. Is that true?
Really? Do I get an award?
Well, I think so. I mean, there's probably people who logged more miles than you, and they definitely don't deserve awards. But I think you do. Yours were, I think, good karma miles. But
yeah.
But you're home, right?
I'm home, and yeah, I've just had to cancel a lot of trainings. April trainings and May and June. Right now, I still have things scheduled for July, and I don't know what to do about that. If we should, I don't know how far out to cancel. But yeah, I'm happy to be home with my family. I'm glad I wasn't stuck somewhere. And actually, I love to be home. So it's been, it's been okay in that way. It's, I like to garden. I like to be with my family, and
Right.
it's giving me time, I guess, to do less teaching. Although I know I'm doing more online, so I don't know.
Right. Right.
How
Right.
about you? How are you? I know you have small children, so that feels like such an overwhelming thing to deal with right now. Like I'm so glad my kids are older right now.
Yeah, I think the stress and the tension is kind of incredible. I can't imagine what people who are trying to do this as single parents are going through.
Yeah.
People who whose home life is not safe. Um,
Oh, I know.
people who are already struggling with their partners. Like I I really, it's terrible to think about, actually, to think about how what the long-term impacts of this will be, especially, you were talking about canceling things going out to July, but I mean, it feels like there's consensus gathering around 18 months as being the kind of the framework for physical distancing. And
Really? Well, I mean, I
if
just,
that's true, I mean, we're talking about, even if we're talking about 3 or 4 months, we're talking about defining moments in people's lives, or foundational moment, especially in children's lives. And for those who don't really have safety, it's extraordinary to think about.
right. Or, yeah, don't have safety or security, or even a place or a home,
Just a
or
home, right?
they'll lose a home because they can't pay rent for a few months. I mean, I don't even know. I mean,
Right, right.
it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm my wife is just about to graduate from 6 years. She's supposed to graduate in May from 6 years of psychotherapy training. So she'll be licensed and sort of graduated on paper, but they're postponing the stuff around that. But she had rented an office to start in April, so that's fallen through. But she is going to be able to work through phone and through video work. And so I feel very lucky about that, because, as I'm sure you know, I think that yoga industry work is completely up in the air at this point. And yeah, so I know that we both have a lot of thoughts about that.
Yeah, I know. I actually just read this morning your most recent blog, and I was really intrigued and touched. Actually, I really appreciated it. I don't know if that's what you want to talk about, or yeah.
Well, as you and Amber and other people started doing this great work on community support and what it would mean for, or how quickly or how easily, fluidly, independent teachers and studios might be able to move what they offer online. Things started happening really quickly, and it took me aback as I began to watch my entire social media feed fill up with people inviting their communities into their living rooms to share in some way, because it's a strange format to do it in, to share in some way what they offer in class. And yeah, some things really struck me about that, being somebody who has taught and been a YTT trainer for the last 12 years, and I've owned 2 studios. It was kind of extraordinary to watch everybody sort of scramble.
I didn't know you owned 2 studios. Wow.
Yeah, I did. The first one was in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Which was close to one of the high demand groups that I had been recruited into, and that's why it was there.
Okay.
It's a little bit north and east or west, I can't remember, of Madison, Wisconsin, and town of 10,000 people or so. It was an old repurposed industrial building, And yeah, so that was in the early 2000s. And then when I moved back to Toronto, we opened a studio in a part of town called Cabbagetown. And I was thinking, if I mean, I'm 48, and if I was 38, I might feel differently about this. But once I got the Imperial College's report from the UK, the same report that turned Boris Johnson around the possibility of 18 months of social distancing, I was like, oh, I think I would probably choose to close up, because it's hard for me to imagine an independent brick and mortar withstanding that. But also for the few, I mean, I think I know amongst the 20 odd studio owners I know very well, I think there's about one who has the resources to withstand that.
Yeah.
And that's because of other economic factors. It doesn't have anything to do with yoga income. And so, I think even, let's say it's a year, most of the studio owners that I know were operating on such razor thin margins to begin with, and constantly adjusting their rates in order to try to increase their cash flow. That, let's say physical distancing is relieved after a year, how long will it take for the disposable income to be there to return to the point where people can pay $15, $18, $20 a class, which was what was allowing a lot of those places to stay open along with their training programs? So I don't know. Also, how long will it take before people recover their trust in public spaces? It seems very, very hazy to me. And so the notion that the studio could kind of move online as an interim project was something that I found super interesting and really moving. And also I had all of these mixed feelings about it. I wonder how sustainable this is, or how long this will last, or do all of these wonderful, incredible, sharing, giving, earnest people, do they know clearly who they're competing against when they're getting into live streaming or recorded classes? And then I talked to our friend Theo about it, and she said something super interesting, which was that streaming yoga classes have been around since 2009, at least. I mean, that's when Yoga Glow was founded. And so what we really have to ask ourselves is, well, why did people come to physical spaces? Why have they been coming? And really ask that question. I think
we had online classes, but people kept coming.
Yeah, people kept coming and paying for memberships. They kept paying for class passes. There were yoga studios came and went, and it was difficult. It wasn't easy to keep businesses open, but the yoga studio was a thing. It remained a thing after 2009, which is when the online sort of performance or choreographed yoga class became its own product. And so, we had this discussion where we were like, okay, well, why did they come? Why did people keep, why did it survive that? It survived for 10 years at least, more. And, when I think about what that is, what the actual product of the experience is, it's all tied up in presence and community and relationship. People enjoy the scheduled trip out of the class where they know they're going to dedicate themselves to self-care. They enjoy the body buzz of the room. Some people really go for the adjustments, which is its whole other question. And people enjoy the togetherness. They enjoy a sense of community. A lot of those things are off the table or severely altered in the online space. And so, the one thing that I can think of that really explains this difference, aside from the disposable income and the privilege that goes with it, that explains the difference between the attraction of the in real life studio and the streaming that has been available really, really cheaply for more than 10 years, is that people get direct communication with, feedback from, and attunement with the instructor. And so I think if the stressed out or in crisis instructor or studio owner right now thinks that they have something to offer online, that's what they have to offer. Right? I don't think it's the choreographed class, or I don't think it will be for long.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been helping many studios get online, including Santa Barbara Yoga Center, where I'm involved here, and like 3 other local studios where I knew people, because I knew how to use Zoom. And although not obviously today my technology abilities are failing me, but
right,
I have some technology ability compared to many yoga teachers. And I was like literally doing trainings last week. Was it last week? It seems so long ago. Helping yoga teachers learn how to teach on Zoom, how to make sure that their sound is good enough to make it even, effective.
Right.
And I had a similar feeling. That's why I was happy to see your idea about talking about this, because I think so much is lost. So much is lost in the online class experience, and I don't know how. If this does go on, I think the question really is about how long it goes, and that will be a deciding factor for how many studios survive. It's just a matter of time, because I think the most dedicated students will continue to go to their teachers because of their previous experience. So like that's going to hold them on for a short time, but how long will that last? You're not going to get new, and you might even get some old students who moved away and they want to join online, and see their old friends again online. But you're right, the community is not at all the same. I know I've been teaching for, I think, 28 years. And the main thing that brings people to the yoga class is seeing their friends, like being with their community.
Right.
I think that's the major factor, at least within local yoga studios that I know, maybe not big name places. That's true. Then it might be something about the teacher, but really, I think locally, it's like a community building activity. They want to be with their friends, and it's not really happening on Zoom. You're not really able to connect.
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, 28 years, I think, is a very well-informed opinion, and meeting with your friends is off the table. It's just not really what happens. You kind of get a little bit of, oh, hello, you're there, or it's interesting that they signed on, or are they on, or is their mic on, or are they muted, or can I see them well, or oh, that's a plant in their window, or the lighting isn't like it's not. I mean, obviously, embodied presence with people is I mean, it's ridiculous to even repeat it, but it's completely different.
Yeah.
And so the thing that, here's my idea, the thing that that will not stand in for that is the performance of a vinyasa class on Zoom. And plus the fact that that's already covered by the platforms that do that. Like you don't want to, like, Kina McGregor set up OhmStars and already has a cajillion classes that she can sell you for whatever it is per month. Yoga Glow is the same way. Yoga International is like, I get an email every morning with a free offer for 30 days, what have you. And I mean, like, okay, you've got your online library and you've got your database, and this is a good time to move it and to sell it. But what I'm concerned about is the independent teachers and studios who feel that that's the same landscape that they should be entering into, because they're not. That's not what they have to offer. That's not their value.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because it's been on my mind and I haven't known how to describe it exactly. I mean, I actually teach. I teach for a lot of those platforms, and I know what it's like. I know what it's
Right.
like to be. I know what their business model is. I understand how to be a teacher on those platforms.
Right.
I've also run studios for most of my life, and it's a completely there's no relationship.
Right.
One is it's a production company. It's like entertainment. I mean, the content can be great, and I hope my content is decent. But I mean, what they're producers. They are
Right.
producers.
And
Those are
they're
the people.
really good at it. They're really good at it.
Yeah.
I know I can't remember whether I've met. Did I meet Kat at the? Okay, she came,
Yeah.
and her partner and coworker, Kyle, right?
Yeah.
And I've never met Todd. Anyway, like I love the Yoga International people. They're like good folks, and they've supported some initiatives that are like fantastic. And they are a media company, and the rank and file yoga teacher is not a media company.
No.
And I wondered how well they had thought through the initiative to partner with studios, because my understanding, at least from the advertising or the announcement, was that somehow if you used their platform to get your classes online, that your content would join the YI content, or that your students would have access to it through YI membership, and that gets pretty messy. I was wondering about that.
I don't know the whole thing, but I think it was something they're working on before this. I don't think it was. I think they rushed it out because they want to be of service right now.
Right.
I think I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but I've been communicating with them a little bit and just like encouraging them to think of different things they could do. So, but then again, it's not really on them either. I don't think that, they have to support their employees right now. And
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be their priority. I totally get that. So I think it's easy to kind of blame them, like just because they're already in that world. And in a way, like I have a tendency to do that, like to blame the big players. But like they've just been doing it already. They're doing it well. We can't compete with that.
So my message is, my message is, let's not imitate that. Let's not even try.
Yeah.
Just don't spend any energy whatsoever.
Yeah.
Your camera can only look so good. Your microphone can only be so good. But those guys, if you go into their studio, they've got like $100 bajillion worth of stuff set up there to make you look like a superstar. And it even works for, it works for everybody when they walk into, right. But but what I was thinking about was, so my partner is starting this week to do far less high impact or high stakes Zoom work, which is that she's starting to meet with clients that she's had for over a year in supervision, and she's meeting with them for 50 minutes at a time as she normally would, but she's doing it here in our office downstairs. Using Zoom, and she was trepidatious about it beforehand, but I helped set it up, and I put the little ring light up and all that stuff, and she found it really comfortable and connective, and it worked, and it's different from being in person in therapy, but they can't do it because the college is actually has forbidden in-person meetings now in Ontario. So and it just got me thinking that yoga teachers are not psychotherapists, and there's got to be a really strong sort of scope of practice statement that I make before I give this next suggestion. But there's something about the individual meeting that I think approximates that single in real life quality or value that I think independent yoga teachers and studio owners actually really still have, which is the capacity to directly communicate with, give feedback to, and attune to students. And so private. Yes. And I think that also there might be something very old going on here too, because as we know, the yoga class was really only invented in about 1919. And then it is marketed through visual media. It is, becomes part of the kind of it's intertwined with demonstration and performance in the various places that it emerges in, and then we're off to the races as something that is indistinguishable from physical culture in general, that has yogic elements to it, but people are kind of vague on what they are. But the main thing that's happening is that physical movements are being choreographed through demonstration. And before that, what did we have in terms of yoga production? Or in terms of yoga, did I say production?
Yeah, you mean education?
Yeah, education. What do we?
Now we have production.
Yeah, now we have production. That's a good slip. But what we had before that is we had individual oral instruction, and this is not in the mists of time. Like when I interview somebody like Jim Mallinson, he describes learning hatha yoga from his guru in central India, who was a sadhu, wandering ascetic. I think he just died last year. And he was given his postures orally and told to go away and practice them and learn about himself. And I don't think that's going to fly in terms of market expectations for the yoga consumer who can't go to their studio anymore. But I do think that the individual meeting in which the instructor says, so what do you think you need? And what kind of movement do you believe would be, mindful for you or interoceptive for you? Or, how are things going with your internal dialogue? Or, are you interested in practicing meditation, a little bit or something like that?
I mean, that's kind of yoga therapy, actually.
Right. And that itself, is a very well-trained and, if not licensed profession. But I think anybody who's been doing private yoga lessons and is in that sort of, in between space between the person giving the class and the person who is, providing some sort of therapy, I think they might be in an ideal position to capture one of the remaining real world values that we now find erased because everybody has to perform sun salutations on Facebook.
Well, I also have been recommending for teachers that are going online is that they could do, they'd be better off doing live classes than recorded, because at least if they're live classes, there's a sense of some connection in the moment that, oh, okay, my teacher is there right now doing this, and I know that, and maybe I could make a comment, or I see that it's in real time at least. So real time is another element here, because I think the idea of a unprofessional recorded class, just seems unnecessary. I mean, there's just so many of them out there, but I'm very concerned. I mean, I'm just concerned for our community of accessible yoga teachers. I mean, that so many of them are really trying to be of service, are bringing yoga to different populations who may not normally have access to yoga classes, and I don't know what's going to happen for them. I mean, no one knows anything, but I feel like there's the accessible yoga kind of class where there's such an essential element, because it's doing more than community building. It's also helping people socialize and get out of the house and not be isolated, and that's obviously gone. That's gone.
Right. Well, when you speak about what's going to happen or what's going to be left over, one, I think if there's a bright point, it's, especially with regard to your community, as far as I see it, it's the amount of work you've done to expand influence into public health discourse. So when you partner with the Yoga Service Council, I think that's what you're doing. And when, you coordinate your services with care providers who, are either working through insurance billing or in hospital settings or what have you, you're part of the group of forward-thinking yoga teachers who are making this bridge into the public sector. And I think that's what's going to be left over. Because when we talk about 18 months of physical distancing, closing down independent studios, we're talking about the private sector.
Yeah.
But if lessons are learned from any of this, then maybe not in your suffering country. I mean, if lessons are learned, then public health will be a target for heavier investment.
That's true. So I guess in 18 months or whenever teachers can come back and teach in-person classes. I mean, I don't know when that is. I mean, I see a comment about that. I think that's what we're talking about, is that this could go on for a very long time.
Right.
And so, sure, students want to come back. That's not what we're saying. Of course, students want that experience of being with their teacher and with their community, but we're talking about it may not be possible, at least in a year or even a year and a half. And we don't know at this point, I don't think.
Right.
And yeah, it's true that the public sector will be interested in yoga. And hopefully those classes will arise from the ashes and be able to serve those communities. So yeah, I mean, who knows? I think the landscape is changing so quickly in yoga. Although I would say the one good thing here to me is that yoga can be taught online, when I think there's other things you can't even begin to do online.
Right. Right.
You couldn't do massage or acupuncture or something like that. So I feel like at least there's some piece of what we offer can be shared.
Right.
And maybe it could be even safer. Maybe it'll be like the good part. The good
right.
part.
Well, certainly the classroom dynamics of mimicry and somatic dominance and
exactly.
Right. All of that, all of that can disappear.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if we start thinking about, as teachers, about the value of the individually scheduled meeting. I mean, I've seen a couple of studios advertise their online studios as you would gain admittance to the classes for basically the same rate that you would pay if you went to the brick and mortar. And a lot of the language is around, well, please continue to support us, as we go through this transition. And I think the difficulty there is when you have no idea what the transition is into, then that becomes a harder and harder line to sell.
Yeah.
And honestly, if what would be more appealing to the people that you serve, Jivana? Would it be, offering a group class to which everybody paid $10 or $15 to get in on Zoom? Or would it be scheduling 10 or 15 20-minute meetings with students where you ask a couple of questions about how their movement practice is going, how their breath work is going, and give them some homework for the next week? There's a lot more scheduling involved in the latter option, but I mean, what would be more sustainable? I think. I don't believe. Yeah, I think to me the latter, the personal attuned contact of the latter process would be really good. And maybe what we need is people like Francesca Cervero or the folks who have been doing, studying the private yoga lesson as their specialty for the last 5 to 10 years. Maybe we need to get them to write a manual or something like that. How do you, how do you do this? I mean, she already has in a way.
Yeah, she has. I know, she should write a book too.
Right.
Well, I actually started yoga that way too. I mean, that was, I was so lucky that my first teacher um, was actually a Japanese woman, Japanese American woman who believed in the apprentice relationship. And that's
Right,
how she taught. I mean, she was a master in Japanese tea ceremony and
right,
also yoga. And like that was what she was
right.
teaching me yoga. So I was lucky that I got to study her for my first 4 years were with her, and it was not nothing you'd expect or see now. Most of the time was done. It was like we were doing chores together, and she would, I was like in my early 20s, and I didn't know what I was doing, and she just kind of took me under her wing, and I would just hang out at her house. We would garden, we would cook. She would talk to me. We would do yoga and meditate. We do tea ceremony. I mean, it was a lot of that, but it really helped me go deep quickly, I think, into the teachings that I don't know if I would have understood or gotten access to
Right,
without her. I think if I just gone to an open class, most of the beauty of the teachings aren't exposed there. If it's all asana,
right,
and she
right.
was obviously living her yoga. So it was like, she was modeling for me a yoga lifestyle. So that's always been there for me. So I mean, I agree with you. I don't know what the future will bring
Right.
for yoga, but I would agree that personal like mentorship and one-on-one teaching is so valuable. And I know the problem is like currently that's really only available to people who have a lot of money.
Right. Well, but I think the economy has completely changed as well too, and that's why when I see, um, you know, the class tomorrow online, in our virtual studio at 9:30 in the morning, it's $15 to drop in, but you can
Yeah.
also buy a month pass to our classes. I can't imagine that flying for
Yeah.
long when I think isn't Yoga International at $15 per month or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Patrice is asking some questions that I want to just
Yeah.
really honor here. She's saying, so is Matthew saying we go back to one-on-one classes? I don't know. I'm saying that it's an option and that there's a problem with the Zoom format trying, I think, over time to compete with pre-recorded classes and streaming classes from platforms that have professionalized this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then she's also asking how many teachers have the time to give 20 individual classes right now rather than one class on Zoom for all 20. That's a great question too, but I think that's gonna I think the devil will be in the details with regard to how much income starts to come from those Zoom classes, whether it plateaus, whether it falls off, whether some people are able to get it off the ground at all. My main concern is that independent teachers aren't under the illusion that necessarily it's going to be an easy or a viable switch to turn what they do in real life into online formats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but with regard to who has the time, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you went from teaching 6 classes a week as an independent teacher, and you were making, $60, $70 a class or something like that, and you found that your Zoom classes, people started falling off after the first month, or they migrated to other classrooms or other platforms, then the question would be, how do you retain contact with the people that actually value you, not necessarily because you're choreographing movements, but because you know them, and because you have grown to care for them, and because they like the fact that you attune to them. That would be the next step. And
I mean, you're so forward thinking, like I think you've had this problem in your life before.
Oh, I've had this problem.
No, the problem I mean is that you see some things in the future. You have like
okay.
you have this
What
ability.
what I can say about that is that I basically give myself a one-person, virus every couple of years, and that makes me almost unbearable to the rest of the yoga world. And so, yeah, like, and then I just have to like wonder, okay, what am I going to do now? I've written this book about cults now. Okay, who's gonna listen to what I say? Like, so not to make light of it, but I have pivoted a bunch of times, and I have moved from like in real life spaces to being a content provider, being a trainer, and now that training is moving online. So I do think I've approached this in some ways, but I don't have the real challenge of, okay, how do I take an embodied thing that I give to my people, 3 times a week? How do I do that? I'm kind of used to being a talking head now, so I don't have to.
What I mean is that you're good at seeing the future in terms of like realizing the logical next step. And I think most of us, like what I see in the yoga world, is scrambling to get online without thinking about that next step.
Right.
Not imagining that future yet, of what happens when this goes on for a year.
I will say, and to speak to the title that we chose, I personally believe from my historical research that the modern yoga movement is very much complicated, and I would say almost to the point of betraying its promises by what I call visual epistemology or visual performance, and that starts right back at the age of photography. And so just a couple of things the listeners might not be aware of. Light on Yoga, published in 1966 by Mr. Iyengar. It's actually the record of a man going into a health crisis. He took the photographs over a 2-week period, and he strained himself so hard that he was hospitalized for 2 weeks afterwards. So what you have is this split always between the image and the reality in the yoga world, between it's this very weird practice in which, and this is at the heart of, I think, accessible yoga, starting to break this down anyway, that what the posture looks like and being concerned about what the posture looks like is actually antithetical to interoception. And it's antithetical to the internal sensation of exploration or curiosity or peace or whatever the practice is trying to drive at. And so I see this as an opportunity where a very, very like sharp rupture point where we can look very carefully. I don't want to be too grandiose. I'm just saying this. I don't want to say like, I see this as I have the impression that this is an opportunity, a rupture point where we can see whether or not we are going to continue with the idealization of the visual image in modern yoga, because if we don't, if it becomes about interpersonal communication and guidance and encouragement and questions and curiosity and all of the really good things that your first yoga teacher probably did with you, if it becomes about that, then this whole question of bodily anxiety in modern yoga begins to soften up. Am I doing this correctly? Have I accomplished enough? Am I in correct alignment? Never mind that that's meaningless. Do I have the standard number of appendages or whatever? Like, all of that stuff just goes away because we're not exciting. Right. We're not looking in mirrors anymore. because we're not looking at little green lights anymore. Now, how that actually works economically with regard to a market trying to transition, I think it's super, super messy. But I do think that the yoga teacher who feels, okay, I've seen a number of people comment, I've tried to put my classes online and I feel really weird. I'd say treasure that feeling. Like really go into that feeling. I think that feeling is actually, that's a very intuitive feeling. It is weird. And if you let it be weird to the point where you're like, maybe this isn't for me. Now, some people might be in the position where they can't see an alternative, and so there's too much economic stress to not continue.
Yeah.
But I think the weirdness is not something to get adjusted to. I think we've been getting adjusted to a visual culture forever in the modern yoga movement, and maybe we can become alienated from it now.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. I mean, it's taken me so long to get myself in front of a camera. It's so uncomfortable for me as a teacher. I just taught a class this morning online. It's quite awkward to not have people in front of me, to just be talking to a camera and a screen that with my own image. It's bizarre. And, moving my trainings online, I have a similar feeling of just a lack of connection. Also, I think when I move my classes online, to me, it feels like it becomes about me rather than about the students, and it becomes about me as a performer, which is what I think you're saying.
It's totally what I'm saying. It's totally.
I see Shankari made a comment earlier about that she made a choice not to offer asana classes during the crisis, and I really appreciate that. I think that, what you said. I mean, I also appreciate people who are going online. I think that can be, that's an important choice for some people too. And I've just really, I've been thinking about this for years. The point you made about moving away from asana as performance has been the theme of my work, and trying to get people to understand that's not what yoga is really about. Anyway, I hope this moment can help kind of drive that point home for our community and help. I hope that's true. I don't know.
Doesn't it prove it? It proves it.
I don't know. I think it's such a, it's become the definition of yoga. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally like the way the world now understands yoga is different because of what's happened over the last 50 years,
right?
Or so. And so I don't know how quickly that can be undone. I think maybe for practitioners it can go deeper, maybe that's true, but for like new people coming in, I don't know what they'll experience. Can new people come into yoga right now? What will they experience is kind of an interesting question too,
right?
But I'm just going to say, like, having avoided online teaching for so long, I actually have just like started doing it over the last couple of, like 2 years maybe, and I just found that I realize that I'm passionate about teaching, and that I want to get to share the teachings that I love and that have been meaningful to me with other people. And so I just started making an agreement with myself, basically, that that's why I'm doing it. That I'm going online to reach more people. And I think that's mostly true. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I think there is that possibility that being online does have, there is some benefit there. There's some use for that. I mean, that's at least what I told myself over the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah, and there's nothing. I mean, on one level, content is content, and if you have something unique and helpful and, I don't know, dharmic to offer, and this is an avenue for people to be exposed to it in a relatively accessible way and inexpensively, then that's fantastic.
Right.
That's fantastic. But I mean, we are talking about an entire industry that is now being asked to sort of like double down on its performance anxiety. And like, that's just not, I hope people get bored and tired and grossed out by that really quickly. If unless it's working for them. If it works for them, then that's great. But I hope that people don't try to make it work too long when it feels like it's not quite working, because that will only, I think, inhibit the development of what I think the at least in this era, what the yoga teacher can really offer, which I think is attunement and personal encouragement, and personal encouragement.
That's
so
beautiful.
Yeah.
And actually, access to the good part. I mean, there's the good part of the teachings to me, which is like helping to regulate your nervous system and and learn how to be more comfortable with yourself. I mean, I think there's so much there that has been lost, and that we need to, hold on to or rediscover from the teachings. Yeah.
And I think if you don't, I just imagine that if you don't feel comfortable in your own body, however it's configured, as you are looking at the little green light in your living room, then it's going to be difficult to communicate attunement through the medium. I mean, we already, it's already obscure, right? I mean, I've been with you in person several times, and so I know what that feels like, and I miss that. But because we're talking, and because we're informing each other about something, I feel like about 60% of what I would if we were having a meal, and I think that's got to be good enough. But like if you were, I mean, you opened with a centering exercise, right? And I was thinking that okay, so that serves a kind of like ritual function for the hour that we're going to spend together. But also, I think it lets us both sort of change the channel from the technology to a conversation. But wouldn't it be strange if you just kept doing that for like an hour and kept guiding me through do you know what I mean? Like instead of just having a conversation in which you were encouraging me in my practice, I think it would be much different.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I mean, I find myself, I'm training teachers all the time, and I'm constantly telling them to just let down their guard and try to have conversations with people. That it's a group conversation. You're leading it. You're in the position of like moderator or something. But the yoga class, we have to change that dynamic, and that was happening anyway. But I mean, that was my theme for the accessible yoga training. It was just like, how do you shift this power dynamic that's all wrong? And the way to do it, I think, is actually just that. It's actually through conversation and actually having communication in class. Otherwise, it's not. Students are not empowered unless you've given them the chance to speak.
So and the thing about, I think you've done really well at that. You've learned how to do that because I've sat with you individually, and I've been in a room with 100 people with you, and I've been in a room with 40 people with you. And basically, when you walk into the room, it's no big deal, and people, oh, that's Jivana, whatever, and you're good at that, and so on the other end of the spectrum, we have the performativity that is, characterized by, or that's embodied by somebody like Mr. Iyengar or Manuso Manos, or people who have been either charismatic and in their presentation usually socially dominant, sometimes outright abusive, But you never would ever get the sense walking into a room like that you would just let your guard down and relax and have a personal conversation with the leader, because that's not what they're there for. They are there to perform and to dominate. And that performance / domination is what has governed visual culture in yoga for a long time. And so I think when people feel uncomfortable moving their classes onto Zoom, they probably have the sense that, oh, I'm going into this territory that I'm not enough of an extrovert, or I'm not dominant enough to control. And they might be right, but that's a good thing. And maybe they should do it, So yeah, like,
awesome.
Just think about the opposite.
Yeah.
Anybody who walks, any teacher who walks into the room that and people respond by sitting up straighter or looking a little bit more like Mona Lisa or something like that. That person is exuding something somatically that is performative, and that can work if it's being, I think, recorded for OhmStars. That can do what it does. But I don't think rank and file, like normal people who want to just have good yoga conversations that are encouraging, I don't think we should try to emulate that at all.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Can I go talk about something that's slightly different? I know it's 2 o'clock here, but I know we started a little late, so I don't know if we have time.
That's fine with me. Yeah, I'm good.
I was just wondering about that blog you wrote, the one you just published.
Oh yeah. What did I say? What was it about?
You talked about softening your edges. You talked about how
right.
your what you're experiencing now has made you think that you need to approach. I don't know, I'm put words in your mouth, but it was like you're approaching your work slightly differently. That the world is basically resolving a lot of the things. This pandemic, it sounded to me like the pandemic is actually addressing a lot of the issues that you were trying to address. Is that fair to say?
I think, no, I just think it's put them into perspective.
Put them into perspective. You brought them out, maybe.
Right. I mean, I guess, in response to a pandemic like this, whatever. I mean, it's in response to a global disaster that's like an asteroid hitting the Earth in a couple of weeks. I think there's a lot of the venality and woundedness and trauma of the yoga world will be on full display. People will be trying to, keep their studios open for a long time, claiming that, a few extra twists will, I don't know, burn out the virus or something like that. And people will be marketing oils to each other and trying to get them into, click funnels, or I don't know. There's going to be a kind of some evidence of a race to the bottom as everybody's desperation comes out. And I think that I've done a lot in my journalism and criticism so far to really analyze that material. And I think that work, it just doesn't need to happen anymore, or at least right now, because yeah, I mean, the most predatory aspects of the yoga world, of the Buddhist world, they'll consume themselves under this pressure. And yeah, I just feel like it's much better to shift attention, at least for me, for now, to supporting what's really creative and what's really forward thinking. And also to recognize that, when somebody who owns a Bikram studio says that they're going to keep it open because the hot room will kill the virus, that, punching something out about that on social media is really like, that's low hanging fruit. And I don't, and while it can be enraging, and while, the also, I think a crisis like this will expose inequality in our industry to a great extent. It will expose like just how many people are privileged and how many people are living hand to mouth. How many people have taken up the yoga professionalism as, a kind of, I don't know, gentleman's or gentlewoman's bourgeois hobby, and how many people are, trying to actually feed their families doing it. That will be exposed. And so, yeah, a lot will be exposed, and there will be a lot to be angry about. And I want to be really careful in conserving my energy at this point, and to make sure that anger isn't something that I go to because I actually feel I feel grief, or I feel sorrow, or I feel anxiety. And so, yeah, but that's today. So we'll see we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next week. But
it's interesting because I think sometimes anger can be very motivating for writing. I know for myself, like when I get frustrated about something, sometimes I go process through writing. So I'm curious to see how that affects your writing, but I've always enjoyed your writing that's more, that's less that, actually. I've really enjoyed the writing that you've done that's just more kind of philosophical, more, like imaginational, is that a word? Just like that, the creative part of you. I mean, I really appreciate your other work, all your criticism, and especially around cults and abuse. I've learned so much from you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this past year, especially, actually, I felt that, and it's kind of what I was referring to before, that I think that it seemed like the world was trying to catch up with you. That you were kind of thinking ahead. You saw things that most people were just unwilling to see or didn't know for some reason. And you were trying to show us, and then finally, I think people are catching on. I mean, after because like a lot, like with the Kundalini yoga, like we've known about that forever, but all of a sudden it's coming out, right? But who hasn't known that? I've known for years and years about that. So it just seemed like you were just like, I don't know, you were seeing ahead, but also putting it out there. And
also, there's a habit of grabbing the megaphone as well. I mean, it's not like it's not like I've had an original thought. What I think I have been good at is I think I have been good at listening to other high demand group survivors like myself, to try to understand my own process better, but then to also be able to faithfully render what they're telling me, and then to bring in my own research and or to cultivate the resources that I've made in the anti-cult movement. So, but thank you for that. But I mean, to that point, it's like there is a current Kundalini yoga cultural implosion, but it's been years in the making. And there are very predictable standard responses that are coming from current leaders, and there are very easily identifiable patterns of indoctrination and coercion and black and white thinking and magical thinking and so on. And so, I was last month, while I was finishing up work on the Shivananda articles, I was looking at some of that material, and it's interesting. Then the COVID asteroid hits, and all of that material, all of that stuff is still going on. All of the cultic abuse or institutional betrayal and abuse within that organization is still going on. But I feel like the resources and the work to press back against it it's there and it's available. And yeah, so and I think it's good to continue to study and analyze that material, because wherever we are at the end of this, we're going to have to be better at forming community than we have over the last 50 years. So so I still highly value it, but I don't know. Maybe I think one of the people that I referenced in my blog was Darja Mail, who's the environmental writer and journalist, who spent all those years writing this incredible book called The End Device, and then he made this announcement saying, "Well, I'm giving up journalism now." And I'm talking to him. I interviewed him. Well, we started talking weekly anyway, and he says, "Yeah, I'm hanging up my spurs," and I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because I've just the data is there. I could just keep doing it, but there's no point in me continuing to do the observations. Like, I don't think I'm there yet, for sure, with regard to cult analysis, but it's really interesting to watch somebody go ahead of me in that direction, and to realize that, now what I've got to do is work in another field, or reconnect with my heart a little bit, or I think he's gonna spend the next several years hanging out with First Nations elders and trying to figure out how they understand and look at ecological crisis, because of course they have firsthand knowledge of it, right? So
wow. Yeah, that's a powerful story. Well, I hope you don't give up on us altogether.
Oh, no. I definitely won't. I just don't. I just think, like, our threads are going to get thinner and thinner, and so I want to do some weaving instead of some picking apart.
That's funny, because that reminds me of the title of your book, your early book.
Oh, yeah, right. Right.
All right, so maybe we should stop there. Anyway, I really appreciate your time. Sorry with all the technical stuff that it was.
That's fine.
But we'll have a recording which we can share, and if there's more questions, maybe we can answer in the chat, or we'll see.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Well, it's a real pleasure. I hope you stay safe, and I hope that California gets all the resources that it needs, and I hope people stay off of Huntington Beach. I saw a picture. Anyway, I hope you all stay safe, you and your family and everybody that you love. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too. Best of luck to you and your kids.
Yeah.
Good luck with everything. Okay. Take care.
Right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.